Hello, pre-algebra students. Mr. Lawrence here. I hope you liked the lesson yesterday by our friend Zeno, but today it's Mr. Lawrence again. And today we're going to be estimating square roots, and we're going to estimate them without using a calculator. You might be able to check your answer with a calculator, but we're going to estimate them without using a calculator. It's really easy to do. First, just for warm-up, I want to ask you, what's the square root of 4? Now, most of you are going to say 2, because 2 times 2 is 4, and you're absolutely correct. And then I'm going to say, what's the square root of 9? And again, most of you say 3. All right. Now, I am going to try to figure out the square root of, say, 5. I'm going to see if I can estimate it. Now, I know that the square root of 5 has to be between the square root of 4 and the square root of 9. But some of you will guess 2.5, and the other answer just doesn't make any sense. In fact, let's think about this here for a minute. Isn't there a square root of 6 and a square root of 7 and a square root of 8, all between square root of 4 and square root of 9? And wouldn't the median or the middle of that be here? So if I took the square root of a number in between the square root of 6 and 7, like maybe the square root of 6.5, that's what I'm going to expect to get somewhere around 2.5. Might not be exactly that, but for estimation skills. All right, now hold on one second. Let's see if I can't bring up a calculator here. I'm not sure if you know this, but Google is a calculator. Watch this. I can do 2 plus 5. Oops, I missed the plus sign there. 2 plus 5. And then, look at that, I get 7. See how it showed up? I can do, say, 3 to the second power. And look at that right down here. I get 9, don't I? Yeah, so Google can be used as a calculator, which is really pretty cool. So this time, I want to take the square root of 6.5. I'm guesstimating it. So let me do a search on it and see what happens. And look at it right here. Square root of 6.5. I get dun, 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 this answer right down here, which is an irrational number. It's a decimal that goes on forever without repeating. Remember irrational numbers? Yeah, and I estimated mine to be about 2.5, didn't I? 2 5/10. And sure enough, 2.5 or 2 5/10. So for those of you that wanted to guess that the square root of 5, because it's between 4 and 9, must be about 2.5, that makes no sense. That makes no sense at all. Well, first thing I did was find the median between 4 and 9. Square root of 4 and square root of 9. Now I'm going to find the median of this first half. And look at that. It's right there, isn't it? It's going right through the square root of 5, which is the number I'm trying to find the square root of. Well, what number would be between 2 and 2.5? Well, it'd be about 2.25, wouldn't it? That was $2.50, $2.25, $2, right? So I'm going to guesstimate the square root. Now, if they say nearest tenth, I'll say 2.3. If they don't say nearest tenth, I'm going to say 2 25/100ths. Okay, so about 2.25. Well, let's check it out. Hold on one second. And look at this here. It's kind of small to see, but I'll highlight it. The square root of 5 is approximately 2.24 if I round it. Right, about 2 24/100 if I round it. Remember, it's an irrational number, so it goes on forever. Notice the dot, dot, dot right there. Can you see that? It goes on forever without repeating. But if I went around to the hundredths place, I'm going to say about 2.24, 2 24/100ths. Or I could have rounded down to the tenths and said 2.2, 2 2/10. But you see how close my estimation was? I came up with 2 and 25 hundredths, and the calculator is coming up with something about 2.236, which rounds to 2.24. So my estimation is pretty good. What do you think the square root of 7 would be? Well, let's see here. Let's go over to the other side of the equation, or the other side of, and find the median. The median between that is right here, right? Between the square root of 7 and the square root of 9. Okay, and that's going to be about 2 and 75 hundredths, approximately. Now the square root of 7 has to be between 2 and 5 tenths and 2 and 75 hundredths. I'm going to guesstimate it, and I don't know off the top of my head, by the way. You have to trust me that. I'm going to guess that the square root of 7 is approximately equal to 2 and 6 tenths. Let's go and see how close my estimation was. This time I'll do it on a calculator. I am going to raise 7 to the 1/2 power on this funky calculator because I don't see a square root button. Hold on, let me just double check. No, I'm not seeing a square root button. So I can raise 7 to the 1/2 power. That's the same as taking a square root. And look at that, I get 2.645. So if I run it nearest tenth, my estimation is right on. I said about 2 and 6 tenths, and to the nearest tenth, I'm right on the money. If I wanted to go nearest hundredth, it'd be 2 and 65 hundredths, right? But that's how simple it is. So let me minimize that, and we'll try another one. Okay, let's say you wanted to know what the approximate value of the square root of 30 was. Well, find the perfect square below 30, like 25, the closest one that's less than the square root of 30, and then find the one above it, the square root of 36. And let's see here. Okay, now I know that square root of 25 is 5. I also know the square root of 36 is 6. The square root of 30 is going to be somewhere in the middle. I know here I'm going to have 26, 27, 28, all square roots, and the square root of 29. And then I'm going to have the square root of 31, square root of 32, square root of 33, square root of 34, and I'm going to space this out a little bit better and get the square root of 35. And of course I need the square root of 36, and I'll move my 6 over. All right, so I'm going to find the median. The median is going to be about where the square root of 5.5 is. So I've got 4 numbers on this side. 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the median is going to be right here. Now the square root of 30 is going to be pretty darn close to the median. See how close it is? All I did was cut the numbers and cut the data in half. Well, the square root of 30 is going to have to be very close. Square root of 30 is going to be very close to 5.5. And I can go ahead and estimate that. It really should be a touch lower. Okay, so the square root of 30 technically should be a little bit less than 5.5, but it's so close, 5.5 might be a pretty good guesstimate. Now I can check on my calculator, and I will take 30, and I will raise it to the 1/2 power. Your calculators are easier to use than this one. I'll show you how to do it at school if you're not sure, but this one. And look at that, 5.477. If I round that, I'll get about 5.5. See how this is so simple. Sometimes kids make this hard, but please don't. All right. Now let's say I wanted to do the square root of, say, 28. Well, I'm looking at this half of the data, right? And Let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the square root of 28. Well, there's the quarter mark. The quarter is going to be about 2.25. So I'm going to guesstimate that the square root of 28 is about, since it's a little bit above the quarter mark, I'm going to say about 5.3. I'm going to check it on my calculator, and I'm going to do 28, raise it to the half power, and get 2.29, which would round to 5.3, excuse me, 5.29, which would round to 5 3/10. So you see how accurate I'm in? My estimation was in 1/100th of a number, 1/100th, like being off by 1 penny. That's how accurately I estimated it. And it's really easy. All you have to do is know your perfect squares. So you should know that 1 is a perfect square. And here's how you tell. Hold on 1 second. Okay. Take 1 and square it, and you get 1. That means that the square root of 1 equals 1. Now if you take 2 squared, you're going to get 4, right? That means that the square root of 4 is 2. These are your perfect squares. You can find your perfect squares by squaring these numbers. Okay, I'm not going to do all these for you. You're going to do them in class tomorrow. But you get the idea. If I do 7 squared, I'll get 49. That means 49 is a perfect square, and the square root of 49 equals 7. Okay, that's it for the lesson today. We'll get some practice at doing this tomorrow. Mr. Lawrence signing off. Have a good night, everybody.